You know, now that the primary elections are over in Oregon, it's on to the general in November. Could be a wild time in Portland. I think there's something like 1,000 people running for city council. Not really, but there are a lot of people running. And of course, we have the presidential contest. And with that, there's always a chance of high emotions and even violence, which is why I really wanted to talk with the new FBI leader for Oregon to see how they're preparing. And that is our big story tonight. Being the special agent in charge of Oregon is a big job. That's what they call the job for the top FBI guy for the state. You are responsible for the entire state. The new SAC was also what they call him, is Doug Olson. He's been here before. He ran the Salem FBI office 8 years ago before rotating back to Washington, D.C. And now here he is in Portland again. I recently had a chance to sit down with him, and the first thing I wanted to talk about was election security. Okay, how about if we start by talking about politics? Got a big presidential election coming up. What's your concern level as far as political violence in Oregon?
I think we're always preparing for the worst. I think we've done a lot of preparations this go around that some that we did do last time and some that we didn't do last time.
What does that mean? Are you like out meeting with groups and saying, let's diffuse this now, or?
Well, one thing, like we have the advantage of being national, right? A national level organization. So one thing we're able to do is kind of like look at the threats like across the country and kind of share that with our local partners here. So that's like a tremendously powerful thing to do. When I was back at FBI headquarters before I came here, I sat for a while in the public corruption civil rights section where we kind of had a national look at like elections, and there was a lot of that same discussion in the interagency where we could kind of talk about different threats facing the country. And we do that same sort of thing here where we share that information like locally to kind of try to get, you know, our local, if you look at it's usually the Secretary of State, all the different people involved with the election process in the state of Oregon aware of the different threats that we're looking at nationally so that we can kind of prepare for it. But in terms of like specifically what we do, we've had 2 tabletop exercises already here in Oregon where we kind of like exercise that muscle memory. So we introduce some of those predictive threats that we might have into it, and then we practice like the communication that has to occur between all the different stakeholders both on the LE side and then also on the election side. And then we go through like kind of exercises on like how we would address those situations. So we've had 2 of them.
Calls in a bomb threat on election night, or
it could
maybe
be a
blows
bomb
up a building.
threat, or it could be a cyber threat. It could be a dangerous letter or something like that.
Doug Olson does know a thing or two about threats. In the armed forces, he was a Marine Scout sniper and a platoon commander and an intelligence officer. He's held a wide variety of posts in the FBI and was recognized for his work in New York, investigating members of the Genovese organized crime family. He said in Oregon, the FBI has increased its elections crime team.
We've also like actually increased the amount of people that we have that support elections. So normally every office has what we call an elections crimes coordinator that kind of runs through the whole election process, and they're like the single point of contact in the field office for all things elections. Now we have a cyber election crimes coordinator, a counterintelligence elections crimes coordinator, and then just the regular election crimes coordinator. So we've kind of created an additional focus on all those different areas to kind of increase our bandwidth as an agency and kind of help assist our partners that way.
Yeah, and so that's what was going to be my question then. Are they available to the Secretary of State or a county clerk to call in?
They're exactly available. I mean, that's exactly why they're there, is to be that point of contact. But the idea is to be engaged like way before November, right? Like so that we've done these tabletops and everybody knows everybody on like a first name basis. They know who to call. They know where people are going to be sitting during the counting and during all the different phases of the election. So that's the idea. It doesn't alleviate all problems, but it sure makes it better when you have to address one if it's not the first time you're meeting and talking about those types of issues.
Sure. Do you think the threat level's higher now than it's been in the past?
That's tough to gauge. I think there's ebbs and flows and what's going on. I think it's like it's a very interesting environment we're in. I think we have extremes on either end of the political spectrum.
Especially in Oregon, I think.
I think Oregon definitely exudes that that two different ends of the spectrum type thing. So it's in terms of like specific threats, I mean, we're going to follow and investigate like whatever comes down the line. I think we've had some unprecedented stuff in the past. We kind of expect we're going to have stuff in the future, but I don't have any specific stuff to or threats to kind of articulate right now. So we're just trying to prepare for anything that might come.
Okay, so you still with me so far? We're talking with the new leader of the FBI for Oregon. He's concerned about both violence and cyber attacks during the upcoming presidential election in November. So far, he's pulled all the key players together to practice how they're going to respond, which seems like a pretty good idea since you don't want to start from scratch when something happens. How do you fend off a cyber attack on the voting system?
Well, first of all, the voting system is completely isolated from the outer internet. So it's like, so more what we worry about in terms of cyber and voting is disinformation, misinformation, that type of stuff. And also disinformation and misinformation about cyber attacks on the voting system, right? Because this is a system that's air gapped from, the regular internet and other systems.
Literally, there's no connection.
Correct, and that's an important thing to understand, I think. But in terms of all those other factors, and then cyber attacks in general, I think in the second week I got here, we actually had a cyber summit down in Wilsonville where we had all these small to medium-sized companies that are located here in Oregon, and just the engagement and the amount of information sharing back and forth, I was really impressed with. Like I think that's something they're doing really well here in this office and in the state. We learn as much from those companies as they learn from us. It kind of helps us stay ahead of the threat on different vulnerabilities and stuff, which could be leveraged for a threat actor in an election or a threat actor who wants to hit a municipality or a company, a private company. And I think in order to be best positioned to address those threats, like we have to be engaging with the companies that are in that sector, and the level of engagement is really strong.
So first off, he does not worry about an attack on the actual vote counting machines because they're cut off from the outside world. They're not connected to the internet. What he does worry about is some sort of a social media campaign that tries to convince you that the system has been hacked and that there's no point in you casting your vote. He also worries about some other campaign that might use lies or trickery to try and push you to vote one way or another. That's what misinformation campaigns are. He also is concerned about violence coming from either the far right or the far left. At the same time, and this is a bit off topic from elections, he's concerned about cyber attacks on the companies that are in Oregon. They are connected to the internet and often under attack. But he said the companies and the FBI are sharing information to help both sides fend off those attacks. So there you have it. Doug Olson, the new guy at the FBI, bringing us up to date on election security. What do you think about what Special Agent Olson had to say? Anything surprise you? Why or why not? Send us a line, will you? Share your thoughts. The email for us is thestory@kgw.com, or you can call and leave a voicemail. The number is 503-226-5090.